Welcome to episode 246 of Empty the Bench, of the Empty the Bench podcast network. He's Tom Albano. I'm Nick Morgasen. Follow us on social media for Empty the Bench at ETB Sports, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok at ETB Sports. Follow the Empty the Bench podcast network at ETB Network, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok. Make sure you like and subscribe to our YouTube channel, youtube.com/ETB Network. Broke the 850 subscriber mark. That means we're less than 200 away from 1,000 subscribers. Please help. Please subscribe. It's helping us. Make sure you go do that. If you can't watch on the video side, make sure you check us out on the audio side, wherever you get your podcast, Spotify, Apple, you know the drill, everywhere, including YouTube Premium. We are on every audio source you could possibly find, and etbpodcast.com as well for all the latest blogs and everything that's going on there with the NFL season rapidly approaching. I don't know if Tom likes me saying that because with the school year coming back.
No,
Me too.
It's the reality. It's reality.
Me too. I'm going back to work at a school too, so I totally get it. So we have a ton of football blogs. We have MMA blogs. We're growing on that side as well. A lot of stuff going on in this episode 246. NFL news on the docket in a huge way. Jerry Jones speaks, and basically I'll say that's par for the course, which means nothing has changed.
Oh, I'm sorry. Did you say Jerry Jones? Jerry Jones is going to make an appearance on this podcast? Oh, what a shock.
How about them Cowboys?
Yeah. Also, we're going to get into the Tua and Brian Flores stuff all over again. I will warn you up front that there is going to be a massive rant of epic proportions because a certain somebody had to stick their nose where it didn't belong, and it's going to be bad. I'm just warning you up front. Also, media stuff. A certain somebody that you know from your side of the realm, who I like too, by the way, lands a new website and a new partnership. I have some thoughts. I know you guys commented on MMA Outsiders about it. I have some thoughts on it as well.
We talked about it from the standpoint of him leaving Vox and Spotify. When we recorded and it was about there, we didn't know about the partnership with, that whole new vertical. I think that news actually broke minutes before the audio version was about to go live.
That's crazy. Yes. we
got it in for Bando's breakdowns, though.
Yes, and also Tom's going to say it. It's my favorite time because of all the media free agency that's going on. Shams Charania also on the free agency docket, which I have some thoughts on that one as well. Fubo and the whole injunction with Venu Sports, which is the Fox, ESPN, and WBD separate venture, is currently blocked. We'll go into that. Also, ESPN makes some firings due to what? Budget cuts. I smell BS. Also, some other stuff along the way. And we have a good episode for you. But before we do all that, Empty the Bench and the Empty the Bench podcast network presented by Playback. Watching sports is more fun with others, but we spend too much of our time watching alone. Playback is a virtual space where communities can stream live sports together with everyone perfectly synced up. Creators can hop on stage, deliver their own play-by-play analysis and commentary, and invite viewers up for Q&A. Playback makes watching sports fully interactive and a social experience. From playing fantasy sports, repping your favorite players and teams, and watching with the commentators of communities you care about. Win or lose, sports are best enjoyed together. Join our community by going to playback.tv/ETB network to find out more, including our live stream schedule. And speaking of our live stream schedule, coming up Friday, we will have WNBA games for the first time on our ETB Network Playback platform. 4 total games, 3 at 7:30, 1 at 9:30. Mackenzie Meany, who hosts our Game Changers podcast on this network, will be on there with myself and Nick DiMartino and Ben Cruz. We're going to do the 4 games. So 7:15 p.m. Eastern time start on Friday. Come join us. We're going to watch all the WNBA games. And actually, did you see the story of the day we're recording this that Angel Reese signed a deal with Reese's Pieces? or
Yeah,
Reese's.
it's perfect.
It was such a perfect thing. And I was just like, all right, that, like, usually I think those are corny, but I was like, all right, it's her name, for crying out loud. I got to let her have that one. But all right, getting into football. And we start with Jerry Jones basically saying talks with CeeDee Lamb are promising, which in Jerry Jones talk, that means nothing has changed.
Yeah. So Jerry Jones and CeeDee Lamb, the feud between them, the whole controversy about CeeDee Lamb, will he get paid? Will he show? He never showed up to camp for weeks. And according to this most recent update, there are promising talks. So these were comments. I'm basically reading off a story from The Score, which aggregated some of the ESPN original story from Todd Archer. Archer was told by Jerry Jones, quote, I don't mean that to be insensitive to our fans or to CD, but we're in good shape there and we are having promising talks. You say, well, why don't you keep talking? Well, why don't you do something? Again, as in anything, it takes both of you there at the same time. But I believe it's got the proper amount of everything, emphasis, importance for everybody involved here, and we'll see how it goes. We wouldn't have offered him what we've offered him if we didn't want to be here. If we didn't want him to be here, pardon me. The Cowboys did reportedly offered CeeDee Lamb a average annual salary of just under $33 million. I don't have anything for a number of years. But it would basically, if he had taken this offer that supposedly has been out there, would have made him the NFL's second highest paid wide receiver behind only Justin Jefferson, who makes $35 million annually.
And in my opinion, I think CeeDee Lamb is a better player than Justin Jefferson.
Really?
I do. I think he brings more value to the Cowboys than Justin Jefferson brings value to the Vikings.
What about talent? I feel like Justin Jefferson, with the wild catches that he makes and just the unbelievable yardage he can get, I think he's a hell of a talent.
I never said he wasn't talented. He's a really good. They're both really good wide receivers.
They're both 20. They're both, I think, 2020 first round picks. Yeah,
but
they're both 20.
But I'll tell you right now, we've seen them somewhat win games without Justin Jefferson on the run game. If you take CeeDee Lamb away from the Cowboys, they're not winning. The stats prove that they just don't win without him on the field at all. And Dak is a different quarterback without CeeDee Lamb.
Well, on the Vikings front, on the Justin Jefferson front in the Vikings, you better hope that Aaron Jones gives you all the running that you're going to need now that Sam Darnold's going to be your quarterback this season.
I mean, actually, did we talk about that last week? I don't even remember.
Yes.
Okay. It feels the time machine here.
The JJ McCarthy tore meniscus? Yes,
yeah.
Because I groved about how
yes,
both my football seasons are basically over before the season even starts.
Right. So
as far as the other angle to what you said, the whole idea about Dak Prescott is a better quarterback with CeeDee Lamb. I mean, do I think Dak Prescott is a good quarterback? I think he's an okay quarterback. I think he's decent. But I think CeeDee Lamb does bring him up to another level. And it goes back to something we talked about weeks ago. I think when we first talked about the CeeDee Lamb extension holdout controversy, and that Dak Prescott is going to be a free agent at the end of the season. So both of these guys are looking to get paid, and yet both of these guys also
they
need each other. They need each other.
Well, I think the other issue, my gut, by the way, tells me is that Dak is not going to be back after this year. I just think that Jerry is going to play too many games, and I think Dak is going to learn from the CD situation. Say, I'm not sitting through this shit. I'm not dealing with this. I'm out of here. I think that's what's going to happen if they play games, especially if CD is not signed. Like, say that he misses games, which we're getting a little close to that scenario.
Yeah, no, we are.
Now, will there be a 11th hour midnight deal? But he's not in training camp.
Right. I think ultimately what's going to happen, Nick, if you want my prediction on the CD, I think he misses a game or two, but I think by week 3 he's back in there and helping the team out.
But him missing a game or two is significant for the Cowboys. If they losing 1 or 2 games right off the top, like that could be their season.
I mean, it could, yes, but at the same time, I don't think when we talk about division play, Nick, I don't think the Cowboys really have too much to worry about. The only thing they really have to worry about is Philadelphia.
And I don't know if I trust Philadelphia 100% right now either, because
after the collapse of last season, yeah.
Well, not even just that, but all the squabbling going on currently in their locker room culture right now. I don't know if I would trust them. And Saquon is injured again.
Yeah, well, that's a whole other thing. But okay, just looking at their first 4 weeks of the season. I think we talked about with Le'Veon Bell, it has to go to like week 10 or 11, but let's just focus on the first month because we think he'll be back by the first month. So their first month, the Cowboys, week 1, they're on the road against Cleveland. Week 2, they're at home against New Orleans. Week 3, they're at home against Baltimore. Week 4, they're on the road against the Giants on Thursday Night Football.
2-2.
I was going to say, Saints should be no problem. Giants should be no problem. The two AFC North teams, the Cleveland and Baltimore, might be problems.
I think CeeDee Lamb or not, I think Cleveland would have been tough.
Especially in Cleveland.
And what was the other one? The other
Baltimore.
Big match? I just don't see them beating Baltimore.
Yeah, even though Dallas has the home field in that one, I think Baltimore, considering the chip on their shoulder, the fact that they were in the AFC title game last year, and now they have a star in the running back position in Derrick Henry, I think that could be a little bit of
all the moves, I would call that the value move of the offseason for Baltimore. Derrick Henry, because one, he needed a fresh start. Tennessee was going nowhere. And Baltimore will have more room in that offense, and he won't feel like he's getting sacked at the line every time he tries to run through the offensive line. I mean, so I see 2-2 regardless if CeeDee Lamb plays. Now,
that's fair.
If CeeDee Lamb doesn't play, and I've heard this already, this is not just me recklessly speculating. People are saying that the Giants could possibly be in that matchup without CeeDee Lamb playing. Possibly.
I see their point, and we'll talk about it next week when we do our NFL preview stuff all here on the network, which is going to be fun. I'll talk about it more then, but the Giants season basically is going to come down to Danny. That's at this point what it's going to come down to. And
there was a lot of weird speculation going around about Daniel Jones also that a lot of people were saying because they were on Hard Knocks in the offseason, right?
Yeah.
Like people would say, oh, the Giants basically told him that they don't want him after this year.
Well, I mean, I don't want to say anything right now because I have the NFL. I mean, we have the NFL preview next week, and I have something to say on there. Although I kind of
is it a hot take thing for your last thing or no?
Yes, it is kind of a hot take.
Yeah, don't say it now. But
I'm not going to say it now. However, waiting for the sound to load. No, just thinking about Daniel Jones and thinking about what the future could be for the Cowboys. You know, that got me thinking. Let's imagine the Cowboys do move on from Dak Prescott, especially after all this CeeDee stuff here. Well, I have a...
I knew it. I knew where you were going. I knew it. You think that Dak's going to end up in New York, don't you?
No!
That's the one I've been hearing. People say the Giants might go after him.
Okay. Yes, that wasn't the direction I was going to go, though. I definitely do see Dak going to one of the two New York teams potentially after next season, especially if your friend, Mr. RELAX, decides to hang it up. But
you know what, though? I wouldn't be as mad about that, though.
I know. But here's where I'm going with the CON conspiracy thing. If Daniel Jones, if Daniel Jones and the Giants part ways after the season, and Jerry decides, like you said, F you, Dak, I don't want you anymore because of the whole price. You don't think Jerry would not make some ridiculous trade NFL draft time to stick it to the Giants before they can grab whatever quarterback they want?
Oh my God. That
would be typical Jerry.
No, it
wouldn't be amazing for me.
I would laugh. I'd laugh for days, for weeks, for months, for years. I'd laugh at knowing Jerry, he would.
Suck it, Giant. How about that Cowboy?
Well, I heard something the other day, speaking of fake or fake outs. Did you see what Sean Payton said that he basically bamboozled a team and that's how he got Bo Nix as a higher pick? I saw that on Twitter the other day in a video. It's like, oh God. So there are cat and mouse games that cause teams to do things.
Yeah, it's typical NFL draft. It's typical NFL draft. But yeah, look, I think something's going to get done with CeeDee Lamb. It's like I said, Dak's going to want him because he's going to want to get paid at the end of the season.
Yeah, but if this is a money issue, though, then you know how business goes.
But it's not. No, but it's. I never said he wanted to get paid by the Cowboys.
Oh,
I think he just want. You said it yourself when we first started this, Nick, that with these two guys, especially Dak, considering he's a quarterback, there's always a team that is going to be desperate and throw
always,
a bag.
Always. I mean, I don't know what team that would be exactly, but
like we just insinuated, if the Giants part ways with Danny and Mr. Ariel retires, you don't think both New York teams are going to go after Dak?
Well, of course they are. I mean, I think that the Jets would probably be the more aggressive team in that scenario. That's just based off.
The Jets. I think if the direction goes where it could go, like if the Giants go to their floor for this season, the Jets will be a more favorable position because Dak's going to want to go to a winner, I would think.
Right. And then I guess the Giants could draft high in the next year, possibly, depending. But I don't think there's a good quarterback market this time around coming out of college. So I don't know. But this whole story is just insane. My prediction is he's going to miss it 1, maybe 2 games at least. If Jerry's just going to play around and basically say, well, we're promising, the talks are promising, and how about them Cowboys? Like, it means nothing. Like, it's like what is that stupid saying when a contract is close? Like, we're on the 1 yard line.
Yeah.
To use lack of a better term, actually. Like, we're on the 1 yard line. We're almost there. We're almost there. No, you're not. Like, just pay the guy. You need him. He needs you. This is a scenario actually where they actually need each other.
Mm-hmm.
The Dak thing. If CeeDee Lamb goes on the shelf, let's say that for all intents and purposes, he goes on the shelf because they just are this far apart.
Mm-hmm.
For people who can't see it, I'm holding my arms like way far apart.
Wide out, yeah.
Wide out. If he goes on the shelf, he could affect Dak's number going into the offseason because maybe he doesn't have the touchdowns that are needed or the long yardage from all the big catches.
Mm-hmm.
So this is status quo. That's what I chalk this one up to.
Yeah. You know what this is? This is Aaron Boone saying it's right there in front of us.
All right. Don't even get me started with the Yankees.
Ugh. Okay, I won't get you started on the Yankees. I will get you started on this whole Tua Tagovailoa.
Yeah, so obviously Dolphins starting quarterback. I had a little brain fart there. Dolphins starting quarterback Tua against Brian Flores and the LeBatard Show.
Thank you very much.
I hate saying his last name. Sorry, no offense to you, Tua. I just can't say your last name. But Tua was doing an interview with the Dan LeBatard Show. You and I liked that show all the way back to the ESPN radio days. And interview comes out. Tua's a little bit, well, I don't know what the nicest way to say it is, but a little rough on Brian Flores, his former head coach.
He was brutally honest.
Basically saying like that Coach Flores essentially hated him, essentially. And I was like, whoa, how often do you hear a big-time quarterback say that a coach hates them and goes into the media and actually admits it?
I don't know if I would say, like, I obviously was not there, so I don't know what to make of the mess between the two of them. I will say that I think under Mike McDaniel, Tua has definitely blossomed better. Obviously, injury troubles aside, as I mentioned, he has definitely blossomed into a really solid quarterback who is still young and still developing. So if he continues to have the kind of seasons that he's been having in 21, 23, and hopefully if that trend continues, you know, the Dolphins' future could be very bright, especially
led the league in yards last year. I mean,
yeah, especially now that they inked up that 4-year extension recently.
by the way, and I told, where's that sound? Because he did get, oh, here it is. Because he did get paid $212 million worth. So this all comes out. Brian Flores responds. It's a whole back and forth. And then, if that wasn't enough.
Oh, you want me to go to the next part?
If that wasn't enough, Mr. Stephen A. Smith, who can't keep his big fat nose out of anything. And I'm reading the story. And you know what? Let's let the audio do the talking first, because I pulled that out. So listen to this audio from First Take. And here's what Stephen A. had to say.
When you look at Tua, I don't think it's an accident that Tua said what he said when he said it. I don't think it's an accident that Dan LeBatard asked him when he asked him. Dan LeBatard does this show in Miami. Dan LeBatard lives in Miami. Dan LeBatard in Miami all day, every day, all the time. And now is when you ask that question? There ain't no damn accident. I'm saying to you Brian Flores, you see through all of that because he's a smart man. You see through all of that. I don't think it's an accident that it happened. And I could be wrong. I don't know. I'm speculating. Openly admit that. I'm just watching it because as a scribe, as a reporter, long before I became a pundit, I've been in this business for 30 years now. I've seen it. And I know most of the time, again, you connect dots. And if you're Miami and you're the NFL, even though Molly is absolutely right, both things can be true. When you got a case pending against you, you're looking for an advantage. Tua provided it. Brian Flores didn't knock it down. I'm saying that's the reality. Yeah. What comes of it, I have no idea. But that is the reality.
Hold on. I think, hold on. I got a good answer for this.
C-O-N conspiracy?
You don't know how mad I am at this sound right now. Like, no, because I was saying to you before we started doing the recording of this show, Stephen A. has destroyed journalism from the time hot take culture has come up on here. And now you get dumb shit like this, where you're making a conspiracy. Now, he'll defend it and say that he was whatever. He's powerful. He's speculating. He's basically saying that Dan LeBatard and Tua and the Dolphins and the NFL all were in cahoots to create the answers that Tua said.
And I'm assuming, because if I'm assuming what he's referring to, which I think for those who may need the full context, I think some of this is going back to last year when Brian Flores issued that lawsuit of, I think it's racial discrimination against the league.
Yeah. But this is wild. This is such a reckless speculation to say that that the NFL, the Dolphins, and Tua are in cahoots with the Dan LeBatard show.
The one thing I will say that, well, I don't put all of the responsibility. You're talking about the death and destruction of journalism, especially in regards to ESPN. I don't put that all so much on Stephen Smith as I do just the idea, the people behind the scenes of the hot take culture, ESPN's decision. Because when it first came up, well, the cold pizza that was Skip Bayless and Woody Page, then moving into the First Take, when it was first all there, I mean, it was entertaining. But I hear of this kind of thing, and you're talking about recklessness and death of journalism and stuff. And the one thing that I think of, which Stephen A. Smith actually did call out many so years ago, and maybe I'm just thinking about this because we're New York, and my all-time favorite athlete is Derek Jeter, when Steven's old buddy, Skip Bayless, who now is basically in no man's land when it comes to hot take culture and whatever could be next with his media career. If you remember, it was back in 2012 when Skip Bayless accused Derek Jeter of being on the juice.
Oh, that one, I remember when that happened. Like, you know what? There's a difference between entertaining with proper information and giving a take in an entertaining way. When you start making reckless speculations, that's when issues happen. That's when lawsuits and I don't know, what's the word you used to tell me all the time when people make speculations that are completely out of line?
Well, it could be libel, slander, defamation of
slander.
character.
Slander is the one we always used to talk about on here. Like, I'm tired of it. This is slander, almost, by Stephen A. basically saying that they're in cahoots. You have no proof. Stephen A. has no proof that they're in cahoots. Why? Because they're friendly and he's from Miami. First of all, that one sentence in that piece of audio where he says, oh, well, Dan LeBatard's in Miami. His show is all Miami, blah, 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 blah. What does that have to do with anything? Who cares? So you're in New York. You're telling me that with every New York team, I should make a speculation about you, Stephen A., when something New York happens? Like, it's a dumb thing. And to cause all this destruction, and by the way, like you said, and I went and I watched it on their show afterwards, they're laughing about this thing because it is funny in some aspect.
Oh, you're talking about LeBatard basically the next day and his career.
Yeah, because it's stupid. And by the way, I don't know if this partially has to do with ESPN with a little bit of anger here. Remember LeBatard and his show being an ESPN product for a long time before they went off and created Metal Arc Media. But this is just awful. Stephen A. is not allowed to call himself a journalist at all. I don't care what anyone tells me, because he goes around and he says, well, I worked at the New York Daily News and the Philadelphia Inquirer, and I worked in all these papers, and blah, 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 blah. Okay, Mr. Journalist, if you're such a journalist as you claim to be, stop making reckless speculation. You would say that, no?
Again, unfortunately, it's hot take culture, and this is the environment that sports media now is.
So just
I hate it.
So just say stupid things to gain attention, because that's what Stephen A. does. He's not doing it for accuracy. I mean, wait until football season comes around, and all First Take is doing is talking about Dak and Jerry and the Cowboys every day.
Well, thank God Skip Bayless isn't on the air on First Take anymore. Otherwise, it would be completely...
Or Undisputed, which is completely canceled now.
Yep.
But I don't know. I hate it.
I mean, if you're talking about attention for clout, I mean...
well, you guys already dealt with it one time this week already.
Yeah. Zan and I are already in a bad mood. I'm not going to waste people's time on here, though. Go watch Tough Enough, because on there I took, 25 minutes?
20 minutes. But in my opinion, like, because they should be giving the same treatment to Stephen A. that they gave to Skip Bayless. Now, I'm not saying Skip Bayless is more of an asshole than Stephen A. Smith. But all the stuff that the media and social media gets on Skip Bayless for, Stephen A. does the same thing. Do you follow me on that one at all a little bit?
Again, one hot take culture, and I don't know. I feel like Stephen A. and Skip Bayless are like two completely different levels.
My point is that sometimes they will just say something so out there that they're almost looking for clicks and for attention. First Take, you're not going to First Take for facts. That's just not what you're doing. You're going there because you want to see what the next dumb thing that Stephen A. is going to say, or what this person says, or this person says. As much as I like Mad Dog, I like the radio show, I like the Mad About segments, because I think that's actually an honest segment on First Take. But I don't... Do you really want to hear Mad Dog and Stephen A. yelling at each other on a set?
I wouldn't want to do it every day.
But I mean, he's there once a week, sometimes twice a week. I mean, I don't know. First Take is destroying the media. Look at all the shows that they're getting ready to cancel at ESPN.
Again, you put it all on Stephen A. and First Take. It's a microcosm of a bigger issue.
I agree. Because now you look at all the influencers. in our media business. Where what was the example we used? Oh, the Ariel press conference, which we'll get to him later. But remember, I don't know who the influencer was, but he was at the press conference.
And Ariel Helwani basically told him, no,
said,
get out of here.
F you, get out of here. Like, that's the problem. Like, for people like us who grew up, went to school for broadcasting degrees, and did it the right way, have trouble finding the jobs that they really want to be in. But you have these influencers now who say dumb thing after dumb thing, and they get all the social media clout that they want out of this, and they blossom, and everyone gives them the jobs. Okay? And this is weird, though, because Stephen A's been in the business for, 40-something years now?
Yeah.
And he should know better than this, not to say things that he can't confirm as accurate, is my point.
Which is why he threw in probably that little caveat in the middle there, saying, "Oh, I'm just wildly speculating." But,
is that like the one line that? Oh, go ahead.
No, I know where you're going with that. Yeah, it kind of is the one line that kind of saves him. But I mean, credit to LeBatard and his crew though for just laughing it off.
I mean, you know what? They moved on from ESPN. I think they're doing better without ESPN because ESPN is a sports company, which they are, but.
Well, save your talk for ESPN because we're going to have more of it later. But, I mean, Ariel Helwani, I thought was going to go to Meadowlark originally.
So did I.
But you know what? A good transition. So, he did confirm earlier this week he is leaving Vox. He has left Vox Media and Spotify. He had actually mentioned before leaving for the Olympics that he had hoped to get his deals done and finalized beforehand. That did not happen. He confirmed in a video message a day or so ago. He is leaving Vox Media, he is leaving Spotify. So no more MMA Hour, no more of the trio Spotify pre and post show UFC streams that he does with, I think it's called 3C, PT Carroll, Chuck Mindall. But he is now officially going to be partnering with Yahoo. Now, I didn't say he's joining. He's partnering. Yeah,
let's explain this because some people are not going to understand this. So the reason that it says partnering, and I actually you're going to find this ironic. When I did the original news video with Zan, I actually made a small prediction that he was going to go partner, like a Pat McAfee, with a company. So that's kind of what happened here. So he owns his own vertical. I think it's called Uncrowned is the name of it.
Yep.
So it's a new website. It's a new vertical. His podcast is coming back, but it's going to be the Ariel Helwani show is coming back.
Right.
And I think those guys you mentioned are actually going with him.
A couple of them are.
Well, I know his two guys on his show are going. That was confirmed.
Right. Connor, I know. I think New York Rick is going.
Yeah.
But basically what this show is going to allow him to do, and the reason I'm going to bring this up is because we have seen, Nick, throughout our little venture into podcast, we've seen Ariel go from MMA fighting originally with his own show, The MMA Hour, over to ESPN when ESPN got the UFC, was expanding more into the MMA space, then going back over to MMA fighting and doing all these other different ventures with
a ton of them too.
Right, like BT Sport, doing
Euro.
UFC, WWE, Euro. Actually, when he was with ESPN, there were a couple of times he did the NBA stuff. That
was more of a dream, though. If anything,
that was a dream. But what this is going to do, because in recent times we have seen Ariel expand beyond just MMA. He's interviewed WWE guys and gals before. We know Ariel Helwani is a big WWE fan.
He's an NBA fan.
Right, he's the NBA fan. He's a fan of several teams, Buffalo Bills.
I think he's a Knicks fan, if I'm not mistaken.
Knicks fan, yes. He's interviewed boxers before. Obviously, boxing and MMA kind of get into that little, because of the influencer culture, have gotten a little intertwined. But my whole point is that what this combat vertical is now going to do, like you said, it's not the MMA Hour. It's the Ariel Helwani show. He can do whatever the hell he wants.
So to get more into the weeds of it, because this is more my boring background of radio to explain it. He's the executive producer of his own show. He owns his own show. So anything he does belongs to him. It doesn't, even though he's working with Yahoo, they're more of the engine of that website, and then he does what he does best, which is content. And I saw a bunch of shows. It's actually going to have, I guess, would you call it a podcast network technically attached to it with a bunch of shows?
The best way I would describe it, Nick, is, you ever hear that expression, powered by?
Yes,
Something?
I just found it. So it says the Ariel Helwani Show is a flagship program.
Yeah.
And then he's actually going to be doing it 4 times a week.
Yeah, he did mention he was expanding his show to more, not completely daily, but a daily, basically.
And then the crack with Pete Carroll.
Okay, so PT is going over. Okay.
That's what I was trying to... I couldn't remember the name, but yeah, he's going over. And then there was a few others. He did mention, it doesn't say names, but it says a new boxing and wrestling focused show. So 2, one of each, is going to be announced. And then written reporting and analysis is also coming for the website as well. This is huge. He needed a place where he could not be bugged. And now he's finally getting that.
Yeah. And you mentioned before the idea of him, that this is basically kind of a Pat McAfee style, thing for him, a style venture for him. And I think Ariel, I know people know him mostly for the MMA stuff. And I know some people have been a little ticked off when he does these other little ventures or he interviews, say, wrestlers or anything like that. But in my opinion, I feel like Ariel Helwani has gotten this reputation, this aura, this prestige, whatever you want to call. I feel like he has gotten this name to, like, he is the name in MMA media.
It's not even close.
Right, to the point where something like this is appropriate because he can sell something on his name alone. He can produce something on his name alone. He has name value. He has the most name value of anybody in the combat sports media sphere.
It also helped that, I don't remember, like they said the sports content president of Yahoo and a few others were actually at ESPN when he worked at ESPN. So it kind of made 2 and 1 + 1 = 2 at that point. And he talked about it in an 11-minute video he put up on Twitter, that he refused to go anywhere unless at least his 2 guys were part of the equation of his show. And he said basically Yahoo was really the only one that really, which is wild to me, by the way, that of all places, Yahoo was like the only one that was willing to make the sacrifices for him to do what he needed.
Mm-hmm. Because if he had gone anywhere else, they may have basically told him, stay in your lane.
Just you. Do your show. That's it.
Right. Do your show and maybe don't do the WWE stuff or the other sports stuff. Stick to MMA. That's probably what they might tell him.
And he's still going to be out of New York. They're building him studios at the Yahoo Sports studio in New York. I think this couldn't have gone any better, really, for Helwani. Now, the one I do question is why he left Spotify, because Spotify is like huge with the Ringer and all that content.
It might have to be some exclusivity issues.
But I was just surprised. Like Vox, he already left once. I kind of had a feeling that was not going to be a forever thing. I'm kind of surprised though, because the MMA Hour was a huge thing, right? It had a huge audience.
Mm-hmm.
So if you think about it, the Ariel Helwani Show is kind of going to be an extension off the MMA Hour a little bit. And I heard him say in the video also, like, he didn't feel like he earned his name being on a show originally because it's a lot of a responsibility. Like, it was a very, like, humbling thing in that regard. But this is huge. Like, now that he has his own place, I mean, I don't know I guess technically he could be fired by Yahoo if it ever happened, but it's his thing. He owns it. He said a lot of the stuff is going to go up on his YouTube channel too.
Yeah. It had been basically dormant because of everything that had been going on. And I guess Fox is that was technically after ESPN that he started up the YouTube. So I don't know why he was kind of inactive, but it is coming back. And like you said, he owns all his content. He can do whatever he wants. Ariel Helwani has basically now gone with this, the dream that plenty of people who want to get into the media sphere desire.
Right. I mean, that's what we're trying to do, right? Eventually to build up a full network and get where we need to be. I mean, that's the goal one day. I mean, we're all trying to build up into a place where we could be in the media space. But when I look at this, I say McAfee did this thing. Dan Patrick did this thing with his own show. Dan Patrick owns his own show, which is hard. In the radio space, that's hard.
Mm-hmm.
Colin Cowherd with the volume. Shannon Sharp with his own content. I mean, it's very few and far between that you see announcements like this where you get to own your own content, your own space. Usually it takes years, and I mean years, to get to a place where you can have the ability to be responsible and own your own content. So I appreciate it. I understand it. I'm happy for him because he's had some ups and downs, a ton of downs. The whole Dana White situation, which was just ridiculous, to be honest. Dana White's a bully, in my opinion, when it came to that situation. But I will say that Ariel has done some things in the past also. But that's how you get to the top, unfortunately. You have to do things sometimes people don't like.
Again, case in point of the kind of culture sports media, but whatever.
Yeah.
I'm happy for Ariel.
I'm happy. I'm actually happy that he got here.
I'm saying I'm happy for Ariel. I can't wait to see what this vertical develops into.
I think it's going to be very good. I don't see how it could be bad.
All right, we got more sports media that we got to get through. So, Shams, another big name in the media space, going over to the NBA media. He and Stadium have officially parted ways, and as of the time that we're recording this, he is still out there on the free agency market.
So, for some odd reason, they only announced Stadium, but technically, he's about, I think, a week or a week and a half away from free agency from The Athletic and FanDuel. Also, the Stadium deal was up before those two, but he's going to be a complete free agent in a couple of weeks. So, excuse me. This is
you don't expect anything.
Yeah.
And you don't expect any 11 Fowler thing to come with FanDuel or anything like that.
I'm not sure about FanDuel, but Stadium, I think, is done. I think that one's done. I think that one, because they're smaller, no offense, and hopefully Zan doesn't take offense to this, but they're a small Chicago company that is national, but no one really knows who they are, unfortunately.
Like people can associate Woj with ESPN, although people tend to just think of Woj, and they say Woj reporting, on his own.
They say Woj, they say NBA.
Right, and they say Woj bomb and all that.
Yeah.
But with Shams, everyone just knows him as Shams, and he was kind of the face of Stadium. So Shams, if he wants to go, he has the power to go into another direction. Now, have you seen the wild speculation across NBA Twitter in which they're talking about the idea of Shams and Woj making a super media team of NBA at ESPN?
I did not see that. That's the first time you saw something before me.
This is reckless, wild speculation by NBA Twitter. But there are people who are desiring this.
First of all, I don't think the two like each other, to be quite honest. They're competitive against one another.
Well, you can be competitive against somebody that still have a respect for them.
No, I understand, but I think being in the same place, first of all, I think Shams would outshadow Woj, especially because he's younger.
Yeah, well, I think, I don't know, but I think those people, I know people want that super team. I don't think it's going to happen because Woj is going to be their clear number one, I think. But I think Shams is going to want to go to a place where he is a number one, basically, for NBA content. He's not going to want to play second fiddle or sidekick or have Woj's, whatever you want to call it. I think he's going to want to be his own man, and he wants to be, we just talked about with Ariel Helwani wanting to be your own individual, have your own brand and such. I don't think Shams is going to get that by joining ESPN.
I mean, it would be interesting to see like an NBA Insiders show at ESPN.
With those two? Oh, absolutely. But I don't think
That-
it's going to happen.
That would be insane. Like if like for the whole year, they did with Rachel Nichols when she originally was at ESPN. They started doing whatever show it was. I forgot what it was at the time, but they did it all year round because it was such a popular show. Can you imagine if they had Woj and Shams doing TV together on NBA all year round? It would be the most watched thing ever.
Well, there used to be that old show. What was it? The Sports Writers that would air on ESPN?
What, the sports reporters?
Or Sports Report, yeah.
Actually, there's a story that might be coming back in a
Really?
rumor.
Oh, my
Possibly
God.
on, well, don't get too hyped. They're talking about YouTube, if anything, on their YouTube page. But
That's still something.
I think Shams, this is an interesting one. You have to look at the NBA partners, number one. So there's NBC, there's Amazon. I see that one being more of a fit because then he can go do other stuff
Yeah.
if he works with Amazon. Maybe he goes to Amazon for NBA. Maybe he keeps FanDuel if they go back, because he does that show with Michelle Beadle and I think Chandler Parsons. I think it's called like Run It Back or something.
Well, I was going to say, you think Amazon allows him to be an insider and then gives him his own show, essentially?
That would be interesting. I don't know what Amazon's mode of operations are going to be with the NBA content. Like, are they going to set up an NBA block of content around all this money they're spending on the NBA? So that's going to be the difference of what they decide to do. But Shams being a free agent, that's huge. Like, just I don't know where he goes. Could he end up at ESPN? There's always a chance. I just don't see it. I think they're already in the Woj basket. So I don't know if they want to cause that fight, really.
Well, did you see the photo that went out very recently? It was a Bruce Springsteen concert, and like we're all right next to each other. It's Woj, it's Jeff Passan, and it's Adam Schefter.
Yeah, I did see that. That was funny, actually. I see him possibly ending up at Amazon. I just think that he fits right into it. He can do his insider reporting. He's going to need a place to do the insider stuff.
That's what I mean. He has a name. That's what I should have said before. He has a name, but he needs the place that's going to allow him to go to the next level. We just talked about with Ariel.
Being a high-level insider is different than, like, because I don't consider Ariel Helwani like the high-level insider. Like, he knows the sport. He's an expert. Like, that's his thing. That's why he got his own vertical. Like, would Shams last if they did like something with basketball with him on his own thing? I don't know if it would last. So I see him maybe being part of the insider for the games. And then maybe he stays with FanDuel. Maybe he goes to DraftKings, one of the gambling sites, or I don't know. There's a ton of places he could go, but I see him possibly going to Amazon. I think they pay him a lot of money.
Probably. Speaking of sports and streaming, that goes over to our next topic. Fubo has won its injunction in court. It has currently blocked Venu, which was going to be the big streaming platform that was going to combine, what was it? It was like Fox Sports,
ESPN, Fox, and WBD.
Yeah, they were all going to form this little streaming platform. It was going to go for what, $49.99 a month,
like $50, or actually like $40. Actually, so it was only sports. That was the goal. It was cheaper than YouTube TV, which is insane.
But Fubo has decided to put its foot down. An injunction has been won in court. That does not mean Venu is shut down completely. It is shut for now, but obviously this one, it's going to go to a higher court. This one could go all the way. It's not done.
So it says in a ruling. The judge stated that Fubo was likely to be able to prove successfully that the streaming service would violate antitrust laws during a trial. Without an injunction, the judge wrote that Fubo and consumers would face irreparable harm. Which, I don't know about irreparable harm.
Well, but it does go to that question when we first talked about this, when this first idea was coming around of like, wait, you're all competitors. Like, how are you coming together to form this thing? And like it didn't make sense. Plus, Nick, as much as we talked about, it's only sports, it's cheaper than YouTube TV. $50 a month.
Actually, I just found the price. It's actually $42.99.
Okay, $42.90, but still, when we're talking about, I mean, that's the thing, Nick. Like, I was trying to think of an argument, but it's just a mess right now.
Can I add one more wrinkle to it, though?
Okay.
So Fubo also confirmed that it plans to move forward with its lawsuit against Disney, WBD, and Fox and their affiliates for antitrust practices. So they're not just filing an injunction, which they just won. They're now suing all three companies.
And saying you're basically causing some sort of monopolistic action. That's what it is. And I mean, it's funny. All three of these companies are competitors, and yet they're all coming together for this. Now, that's the thing. On the surface, like, this is where I was trying to go for before, and I was trying to think of the way to talk about it. I mean, $42.99 a month. That's brutal. But when you add in the facts, Nick, but you can get this instead of 3 different streaming services. And when you think about it, ESPN, I think ESPN Plus just upped itself again from $10.99 to $11.99 a month. Peacock, I think, went from $5.99. At least the premium, not the premium plus, but the main premium. It was like $5.99, went to $6.99.
Everything jumped like $1 plus.
Yeah, and everything. And you know what? This Venu thing, yeah, it is kind of brutal when it comes to pricing. But when you add all the other streaming platforms up, because you can't also forget, what if you have a platform like I just mentioned? Peacock's not in the picture. So if you want a subscription to Peacock, you have to add that on top of the Venu price. Well, man, being a sports fan, I can say this from an MMA standpoint, a combat standpoint, but just being a sports fan in general is going to be, it might already be very expensive.
I was going to say
even more expensive.
I was going to say expensive. I mean, you should finish that statement you were going to make, because you were going to say, as an MMA fan, it's expensive because you literally have to buy every platform because nothing's free,
right.
Basically.
Plus, basically, all this was to get away from the pay-per-view model, and they're lying. The pay-per-view model is still here, so you got to add, occasionally, okay, what is it now? $60 or $70 for whatever ESPN, UFC pay-per-view, this boxing pay-per-view.
I mean, forget it. If the rumors are true, like if the UFC is going to Netflix, then you're going to be paying for everything. I mean, it's tough. I mean, but just this whole story in general, this doesn't stop Venu. Eventually, they'll find a way to satisfy the antitrust. That's a word you're going to hear a ton of in the next couple months and years because of all these streaming platforms and everything that they're trying to put together. I mean, we moved to YouTube TV. I'm not a fan of it, but we really had no choice because Cablevision was a shit show. And we were having signal problems and all that stuff. But now, like, I can't get the Yes Network because it's not on YouTube TV. Like,
right,
so
they had that whole dispute.
Well, they just don't have it either. Like, they have SNY, but they don't have Yes. So, like, I can't watch the Yankee games unless I go online and all this nonsense. Like, they did. Mm-hmm. And everything's behind a paywall and all this stuff. Like, they make it impossible to watch games now. Like, thank God for our Playback platform. I can watch anything I want if I wanted to. I've done that, actually, where sometimes I'll just go on our account and I'll watch a game on there because I have feeds to everything. But truly, you should go check out that platform we're part of because we can literally watch almost any game. So,
Playback.
Yeah. But long story short, this is not a surprise. I'm kind of surprised Fubo didn't do it sooner, actually.
All right, we got 2 more sports media stories that we got to get through before the end of the episode. And this one, I've got a feeling, I said before, there's going to be more stuff against ESPN. And here it is. So Sam Ponder and RG3 hit the showers. They have been told, you got the boot, you're done. So they have been fired off of ESPN. And they say Mike Greenberg is now going to be the new host of NFL Countdown. Now, Zan actually did talk about not the second part of the story, but this first part, Ponder and RG3. It was actually one of his zingers of the week, where
I think Zan and I are on the same page on this one.
He openly criticized ESPN. Now, here's what I'm thinking, because I want to take his opinion in there. That basically he mentioned on Bando's breakdowns, ESPN wanting to go into a younger direction. But if you're going to go into a younger direction, why not ponder an RG3? Because even Zan talked about it. RG3, obviously his NFL career was number 2 overall pick. He helped the then Redskins, now Commanders, get to a couple of playoff appearances, but didn't really pan out. But, I think, Nick, RG3 has done a hell of a job going from, his playing days, which are unsuccessful, to a really successful, it's a young start, but it's a young short start, but a very good start to a media career. And now ESPN says, we don't know. Now, I know what you mentioned before about ESPN. You talked about budget reasoning, and you mentioned a whole lot of BS. I kind of understand your BS argument. At the same time, I do see what they're saying. You know what this is, Nick? This is prototypical. If we want to talk about business, not just in sports, but just business in general.
Everywhere.
Yeah, why do I need to pay all these people? I can just pay this one person to do everything.
Oh God, it's that argument. This is the Stephen A. Smith argument all over again. I mean, because they're paying him all this money. All right, we'll put him on NBA Countdown. We'll put him and this drives you crazy when he's at an MMA fight and he's doing media. I mean, they're doing that because they have to get their money's worth. They got to put him everywhere. At one point, he's doing First Take. He did those solo NBA streams, or not streams.
Mm-hmm.
They were on ESPN2 as an alternative stream. I mean, he was doing ESPN radio at one point. I mean, the guy was everywhere. So, and then I see this news, and I'm just like, so I just looked it up because I was trying to figure out if this is an age and discrimination thing also. I mean, so Sam Ponder is 38. RG3 is 34. Mike Greenberg is 57. Okay.
Yeah. So I mean, Zan's thing where you mentioned ESPN going into a younger direction. No.
No, that basically because Mike is one of the higher paid ESPN employees. If you remember, he was hosting NBA Countdown at one point,
right?
Until they realized that his radio show was suffering.
And his most, he's one of the most notable faces over at that network. You think back to the days of Mike and Mike when we were younger.
Right. And you know what? That was where he was best. And I'm not insulting the guy.
I miss those days.
That was Mike and Mike. Most people who are younger than us don't understand. We would get up earlier sometimes just to watch because they would simulcast it on TV.
When my summer mornings during summer vacation, when I was basically in middle school, was Mike.
Yeah, I mean, it's true. All we did was watch Mike and Mike. I mean, and now they're moving him over. They moved him to Get Up. If you remember the report that they asked him if he wanted Golick back in the 10 to noon spot, and he scoffed. He said, no. Are you kidding? I get it. He's a big star. He's here. He's on Get Up. He's on a radio. Now he's going to be hosting NFL Countdown, which I don't understand. That it's not the fit. Let Sam Ponder host.
I thought Sam was doing good. I thought RG3 was doing great.
I mean, RG3 had some awkward moments from time to time,
but he was developing.
Right. I have no issue. I think he should have stayed. But but what's wrong with Sam Ponder? Now, there were some issues that she kind of revolted against the male sports culture a little bit. I don't know if that had anything to do with it. I don't know. But
if you're going to go that route, then we'll have to play that card. Getting rid of a rising female talent and a developing former athlete who is
you actually took the argument I was going to make because I didn't know how to make it. But think about equality. What's that stupid thing they say about companies where, oh, you need enough.
You want diversity.
Thank you.
Instead they're going to go with Mike Greenberg, who, like I said, is a familiar name, but you had the diversity there. Plus, again, going with the whole not BS in that, because you mentioned budget cuts, because I can kind of see it from the budget cut standpoint because of what they're doing with Greenberg. Oh, we're paying him so much money that we might as well just have him do everything. Let's have him do Greeny. Let's have him do Get Up. Let's have him do NFL Countdown. Let's just put his face all over the network.
I mean, if I dare quote a former person that used to be on this show many years ago, oh, another white guy hosting a show.
Oh, God.
Am I wrong, though? Like, think about
It's not so much about that. It's that, look, I like Greeny, but there's only so much of Greeny that I want.
How many places can you put him? Like, do you remember how many radio shows in a row he missed at one point due to NBA Countdown? Like,
yes,
it was a fill-in. They literally were joking, calling it the fill-in show.
The fill-in show.
I mean, diversity, my ass. You fire a woman who's been really good at her job for many years. You fire a black athlete. I mean, diversity not. It looks terrible.
Right. So when ESPN talks about how they want to be diverse, no.
What diversity are you showing? And people are saying, oh, there's going to be no more cuts. My ass.
No more cuts at ESPN?
For this year.
For this year. Okay. Sure. But if you're just saying no more cuts in general, like, have you not seen ESPN the last 7 years?
I mean, if I'm not mistaken, 2 years straight, we covered it in breaking news.
A massive cut story, yeah.
Because what did they go through? 300 employee firings at one point? Or, excuse me, not firings, layoffs. Because it's not firings. We laid them off. We didn't fire them. We had no choice. It was a budget issue. So, I don't know.
AKA, we didn't want to pay 3 people to do an amazing job. We'll just pay one person to just do decent jobs at everything.
I mean, I saw it behind the scenes a little bit for a couple weeks when I tried to work at certain New York radio station, sports station, and it didn't work out because they didn't pay very well. And now that company, Odyssey, is even more bankrupt than the company I was at.
Yeah. Well, I mean, Nick, it goes to actually something, because it's, it's funny. You mentioned that Ariel Helwani story. I was actually first broke by somebody we're familiar with and has been on the show, AJ Perez. And do you remember something that I mentioned last year or two, whenever we had him on? And I said, the thing with ESPN is it was always, the leader in sports. But it seems like now, these days, it's all about just getting the sports. And then for commentary or analysts, we'll just throw anybody in there. They care about having the content. They care about having the games and stuff. They don't care about the people, the person.
The phrase that goes around for ESPN is everything else is a vertical to get to the next live game. That's what they do now. Worldwide leader in sports, my ass. I don't want to hear that anymore. Because worldwide leader in sports means you cover everything and anything there is. They don't do that anymore. I mean, so you have Stephen A., you have Pat McAfee, you have Mike Greenberg. You see the dumb commercial that's going around on ESPN lately where, like, one is wearing the cowboy hat and Stephen A's wearing the sleeveless to look like Pat McAfee and Pat McAfee's wearing the suit. Like, they did a whole commercial on those 3 guys. So what? Everyone else is chopped liver? Is that what that means?
I guess so.
I mean, you don't have an NFL, you have all this NFL content, you have NFL season coming up. Oh, yeah, that's right. We'll just go to Stephen A. for his crappy NFL takes.
Okay, one more story that we got to get through here. Just brief mention, because we're just going all over the place with sports media, so why not? Jac Collinsworth, the son of Chris Collinsworth, has been replaced on, I think it's Notre Dame football, right?
Yeah, I mean, there was something going on with his son. I don't know what. But Dan Hicks has been around forever. He's been on some of the broadcasts. He's been around. This is for Notre Dame, from what I understand, only. And I don't know who's calling it. I think Noah Eagle is going to be calling the Notre Dame games this year.
Yeah.
So I don't know. This was a little surprising. I'm trying to look it up why Jac Collinsworth is no longer why he got replaced, but
I haven't been able to find any sort of reason for what's going on. I just see a thing that just says he's been sacked.
yeah, I don't see much. I think they reported it. He did cover the Olympics.
Oh, his well, this is a story from Barry Werner of Yahoo. He says basically, so he actually mentioned that Leah Diffie is replacing Rick Allen on the company's NASCAR and for NBC. He says the news on Jac Collinsworth is unsurprising. His performance was underwhelming, to be kind. His once shining star at NBC is no more, as evidenced by a limited role at the Paris Summer Olympic Games. Hicks brings a solid broadcasting tone to the Notre Dame games, as will Diffie to NASCAR.
Wow, so they sacked him completely.
Yeah. Apparently, NBC is trying to have as many big names as possible because it wants to muscle up on the sports media end.
So I found a story. So Noah Eagle and Todd Blackledge are going to be the number one team for college football coverage at NBC with Notre Dame and all that stuff. And also, they're going to Brazil for week 1. Noah Eagle.
Oh, they're gonna be the commentators for the Brazil game?
Yeah, that's what I heard. Noah Eagle's getting a high masterclass early at his age with everything.
It is the year of Noah Eagle.
So I don't know. They didn't say who was calling week 2 at Notre Dame because they're going to be on the road for week 1 in Brazil. So I don't know exactly.
They'll have a B team ready.
Yeah. Oh, they'll have a B team ready, but I don't know what exactly is going to happen in that scenario. I'm kind of surprised they fired his son, considering his dad is massive calling the Sunday night football games. It must have been that bad if they had to get rid of him.
Yeah. Well, I can imagine that. Well, hopefully, they didn't piss off Chris Collinsworth too much with this.
I mean, he's got that. What is he? He owns Pro Football Focus or whatever that company is called that you see on NBC games all the time. So I don't know. He could leave if he really wanted to leave. He probably could.
Now here's a guy who could leave. I needed to end the show on something.
I know you did. But that'll do it for episode 246 of Empty the Bench. Make sure you like and subscribe. YouTube.com/ETB Network. We did break 850 subscribers. I think we're at like 853 or 854 of this at this moment. That means we're under 150 subscribers till we hit 1,000. And when we hit 1,000, we can get to work even more. So please help us get where we need to get. And yeah, also our website, etbpodcast.com as well, to check out all the latest blogs, information as well. So check that out. NFL blogs are going to be a mass, so make sure you check that out. MMA still coming through. Also, if you can't watch the video side, make sure you listen wherever you get your podcasts. Every platform, we are up there, so make sure you go check. And also, if I'd be remiss if I didn't forget Playback as well. Full network presented by Playback. Check out our stream on Friday at 7:15 p.m. Eastern Time. The WNBA, our first 4 WNBA games will be live on there, so make sure you go check that out as well. Whew. Okay, did I get through the whole thing?
Yep, you did.
Oh, okay, good.
All right, so for Nick Morgasen on Albano, we'll catch you next time here on Empty the Bench. Take care, everybody.
Good night, everybody. We'll see you next week.